Welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the monthly live mineral webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the SMMP, and BlueCap Productions. Tune in on the first Wednesday of every month and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Hello to everyone around the world and welcome to the final episode of Mineral Talks Live for 2023. I'm your host, Brian Swoboda, and today is Wednesday, December 6th. And as you can see, we are excited about the upcoming holiday season. For those of you tuning in for the first time, Mineral Talks Live is a monthly talk show that's filmed live on the first Wednesday of every month. As I said earlier, I'm the host of the show, but this show wouldn't be possible or even fun without my absolutely fantastic partners, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez and Dr. Eloise Gayu. The three of us represent the 100% volunteer, majority female-owned partnership that makes up Mineral Talks Live. So we're kind of like the Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all. Today marks our 81st episode of the mineral world's favorite talk show, where every month we get together with some of the best curators, collectors, dealers, miners, researchers, artists, and media people in the mineral world. If you happen to have missed any of our past interviews, there's a complete list of all those episodes along with links to these interviews at the URL bottom of the screen. One of the things that makes this program unique is that it's not only a live show, but it's a show where you get to interact with our guests. All you have to do to participate is interact through the chat or the Q&A features, both of which are located at the bottom of your Zoom window. The chat feature allows you to type messages to everyone watching the live show. We encourage you to post your thoughts, comments, or questions about what we're discussing in this chat area while we're talking. I'm based in Honolulu, Hawaii, while Raquel is out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Eloise is streaming to you live from Paris, France. With just the three of us, our footprint covers the entire width of the United States and a bit into Europe. So if you've signed in, go ahead and fire off a quick chat message letting us know where you're tuning in from, and let's see how much of the world we're covering today. Now, while our guests and I generally don't see your messages during our conversation, throughout the show, both Raquel and Eloise can be monitoring the chat areas and will be very active there. Occasionally, they may even interject a question or comment to us during the interview, so don't be shy if you have a question. Now, if your question is a bit more general, go ahead and use the Q&A feature, and we'll get to those questions at the end of the show. Finally, towards the end of the program, you'll see a window pop up on your screen. This is our quick fire 5-question segment to see how well all of you know our guests. This is a fun way to get to know our guests a little bit better. So go ahead, play along, and maybe you'll find a nice way to include yourself in a conversation the next time you see our guest at a show. So now we're going to turn our focus across the planet to London, England, where today's guest is located. He, like many of us, is a collector, but his passion is arguably more about the process of collecting rather than the final act of acquisition. In fact, he's so far over on that side that I want to label him as a hunter more than a collector, because somehow he's found a way to do this in both his hobby and his business life. Ladies and gentlemen, Academy Award actor, astronaut, deep-sea diver, and Grammy-nominated country music singer, Mr. Robert Myers. Robert, how are you doing, buddy?
Very well, thank you. Very well indeed. Welcome to London.
Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time and your willingness to share with us.
Pleasure.
Now, Robert, I'm always fascinated by origin stories. I feel that this always sets the stage for a deeper understanding of a person and the path they had to take to where they are at this point in their life. Now, when it comes to you, you started collecting minerals in your teenage years. Tell us, was that the first thing you ever collected?
I originally started collecting coins, specifically British 1-penny pieces, but I got quite bored with that quite quickly because they all look the same. And although I do have a love of symmetry, I switched to crystals because I just love the symmetry of crystals. And I started collecting crystals, finding them where I could. I mean, I'm a schoolboy at the time, so there wasn't a great deal of money, but I would go to antique fairs, to rock shows, what have you, and see what I could find.
Now, how did you first get introduced to crystals from coins?
There was a very, very small collection in my school geography room
Oh, wow.
where I first saw them. And that's what caught my attention.
Now, was there like a bulb that went off when you realized that these things are things that you too could collect?
Absolutely. But as I found, I kind of like my chases to be finite. And I soon realized that collecting minerals, I'd be going on forever and I'd never finish. So
Certainly.
I wanted to find a way to try and restrict it. And I was given an amethyst egg. And I took that amethyst egg and thought, symmetrical, fits the bill. I'll go out and look for eggs. And it all grew from there. And within a few weeks, I'd got rid of all the minerals and I was an egg collector.
Okay. So now I understand also your father had brought you a onyx egg from Pakistan. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Now, did he work for the government?
He worked for British Airways.
He worked for British Airways. Okay.
Yeah.
So he had brought that out of Pakistan. Now, that must have been, kind of what time range are we thinking about there?
It's going to be mid 60s.
Mid 60s. Okay. All right. So it was a little bit after Pakistan was formed, and
Yes.
so there was something about the onyx egg and, as you said, the amethyst egg that really drew you in. It was the symmetry. What else kind of opened your eyes when you had received these as gifts?
You're going to hate me for this, but I found the eggs, the minerals, the crystals, really difficult to keep clean. I didn't have a cabinet, and the eggs were dead easy. So, being the anal person that I am, I switched to eggs.
So there was a practical as well as an aesthetic aspect to the collecting.
But if you go back to the chase thing,
Uh-huh.
it was far more difficult at that time to find eggs than it was to find crystals. So hence the limitation and the search.
Now, was there a size that you set yourself towards collecting versus just any size egg?
Yeah, very much so. 58 to 60 millimeters from
Okay.
top to bottom.
Okay.
If the piece of raw material that I was using just didn't make that size, and if I really wanted an egg in that material, I would settle for a smaller egg. But generally, I wanted 58 to 60 millimeters. I wanted them all to look more or less the same in shape.
Now, were you focused on locale or mineral species, or was it just anything that you had that you could find that you didn't previously own?
It was very much the latter. I have never been a studied mineral collector. That's not what has attracted me. I'm attracted me by what I'm looking for, what I find, and when it's cut, what it looks like. I have never, ever concentrated on where the mineral came from and all that sort of thing. Sometimes even not his name.
Okay. All right. So it was just as long
Right.
as it was different than anything else that you possessed.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
did have a guide,
You had a what? I'm sorry.
a mineralogist friend who helped me a considerable amount. And I would take anything that I thought was rare straight to him. We would do shows together and he would help me find things to begin with.
Okay. Now, like many mineral collectors, they will collect many of the same species. You avoided that, but you also were open to trading up, to letting pieces out of your collection for, was it better eggs or bigger eggs, or what were the qualifications that would allow you to release eggs from your collection?
Like with my ceramics collection, I started collecting everything and then soon realized I was going to run out of space. So I went specific. I was looking for things that were very colorful or very transparent, and I quickly switched to inclusions. I love included crystals. So I should say half my collection is inclusions.
Okay. All right. So then at some point, you ran out of eggs that you could find on the market. So you started sourcing material, and then you eventually started looking for somebody who could take that material and turn it into an egg. Talk to us about that period and that process. What started that, and where did that take you?
Well, Christopher was already dealing in Ida Oberstein, and he was the one that persuaded me to go. And initially, I just walked up and down the street, and I met Constantine Ville, and for probably 5 years, they made my eggs for me. And then finally, I was introduced to Dieter Jerusalem, who had developed a tool so that all the eggs came in a specific shape, and I switched my production to him.
Okay.
And I'm traveling at that time for business, and everywhere I go, I'm looking for material.
And then at some point, you, through your trips in Idar, you had met the Dreher family too.
Correct. Again, it comes back to Christopher. His business was failing financially. He came to me one day and said, "We have a Dreher piece ready to deliver to our customer, but we can't afford to pay for it. Mr. Dreher wants to be paid up front. Will you pay for it and help us?" And he gave me a small commission on that. But more importantly, when the business went bankrupt very shortly afterwards, he said, "Get over to Ida Oberstein, introduce yourself to Mr. Dreher, because he doesn't have many customers and we're now off the list. You can take our place." And that's what I did.
Fantastic. Okay. We're going to get more into the whole Dreher part of it. But at this point, when you are making your own eggs or you are contracting to have them made, it feels like there's kind of a whole quantum shift in terms of your collecting. You're now not just collecting what's out there, you are participating in the creation of what you wanted to collect. Yeah. Where does that fall within like what you've done with your business?
Well, let's go back to the shape of the eggs. I wanted Jerusalem shaped eggs. At the time, anybody producing the eggs in the third world was making them in just about any shape, and I didn't like them. I wasn't savvy enough to know where to go for the material. I wasn't going to the main fairs. So I just went looking for material to give to Jerusalem so I could get an egg back in the shape that I wanted.
Okay, so you've kind of taken ownership of this process now, and since you can't find what you're looking for, you're starting to kind of really create what you're looking for. How did you start hunting out the material? What were the qualities that you were looking in material at this point?
Well, I'm in the toy business, and the toy business is involved in a lot of traveling. It's why I'm in the business, because I could get around. I could go from more or less anywhere I wanted in the world, provided there was a toy activity. When you're traveling, you have spare time. There's the yellow pages. Get the yellow pages out and find the dealers. And that, for the most part, is how I found them. And my best find was doing exactly that in New York at New York Toy Fair, where I found a dealer on 42nd Street. I called him. He said, "Yeah, come over. I may have some things that you want." And it turns out that his father was collecting in Brazil in the 30s, had just died. The chap that I was dealing with only wanted to deal in aquamarines, wasn't interested in cutting the rough. He said to me when I came in, "There's a cupboard out the back, go and have a look." And it was just full of treasure.
Wow. That must have been an incredible discovery.
Thank you very much. It would have been even better if I'd have known what I was looking at.
But it was enough to get your eyes to go, whoop.
Enough to ring a few bells.
And indeed. Now, Robert, I want you to have the chance to explain your toy company a little bit, because I've mentioned that a few times in the promotion of this program. It's not that you manufacture toys, but your company is involved in toys, but it also addresses the collector market. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about your business.
All the time I've been in toys, I've been dealing with what we call clearance merchandise. So it's the simplest way of describing it is Barbie's 2022 clothing in 2023 is redundant. The manufacturer sells it off cheap because he wants to get on to his new stuff. We go in and buy the cheap produced stuff, the ones that have failed, the ones that were overproduced, even where companies themselves failed. We'll buy that stock and then sell it primarily to discount retailers. And we've grown up with discount retailers that have become huge. So we started with one for example, had 4 shops when we started dealing with them. They now have, I think, 900 or 1,000. And they're a huge customer of ours, but we have the relationship.
Super. So
but in the last few years, we stopped looking to buy, can I say, children's toys and looked to switch to collector toys. These are toys that collect people from 14 to 50. Things like Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, where the models are made specifically to be displayed, not to be played with. And
that represents a large part of your business now, correct?
It's the fastest growing part of the toy business at the moment.
Wow. And so it's all the people, and you say it's younger, but it also seems like they need a little bit more discretionary income. So it'd be people a little bit older that have the money to spend.
Yeah, generally a toy is bought by somebody for somebody. A collectible is bought by somebody for themselves. And particularly during the pandemic, these people had money and nowhere to go. So they found our website, and we really managed to build a website. So we have, I think it's 150,000 names on our website, most of whom are active buyers.
Incredible. So you have been touching, I mean, personally in the collector market, in the hunting market, as I like to say, but now also in your business, you are addressing the collector market.
We're addressing the collector market, and as a natural progression from looking for clearance, we're taking licenses and developing our own product. So there's, as Eloise will know, there's a new Doctor Who series started last week. Next year, we'll be doing the figures from that new Doctor Who series.
I think Eloise wants one of the first off the production line. So if you can arrange that, that would be super.
I dare say no.
Okay, so going back to your personal collecting style, you've now been introduced to the Dreher and the Dreher family, and you saw the work that they were producing. What was your initial reaction?
Right. I was still in the mode as I was with the eggs, to find pieces and take it to them to carve. So some of the pieces, for example, in the New York cupboard, I took to Gerd to carve. I found a huge piece of golden quartz. I have the egg here in California, and Gerd carved a hippo out of it. But at the time, he was a little bit more expensive than I could afford to keep every piece. I was getting probably 3 to 4 pieces a year. So I would carry on selling to my customer who was buying the egg. I would carry on selling some of the Dreher carvings. And sometimes a piece that was in my collection came out of my collection because something else came along that I liked better. I've always traded up, but it's always stuck to the things that I really like. And if I have something that I really, really like, I don't get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah. And so how many Dreher pieces did you end up acquiring?
I'm at maximum now. I have 25.
25. And some of them were loaned to the Houston Museum for their huge Dreher exhibit.
Yeah. The first time was about 10, 12 years ago. And then they're currently still there at the moment, looking for a ride home.
Superb. Now, Robert, I know that behind you, I can see the collection of some of the eggs. Why don't we take your, I think it's your iPad, and let's go take a look at some of your collections, and we'll talk about the pieces as we're taking a look at them.
Decline to. Can you see that? I'm seeing you.
Yeah, okay. I can see, we can see your camera. Let's go ahead and spotlight. Okay. There we go. Perfect.
All right. So this cabinet is all quartz, amethyst, quartz, and inclusions in quartz. And that's the fastest growing part of the collection.
Now, do you still have that first amethyst quartz egg that was given to you by a family friend?
I do not, but I do have, and it's there at the end. That's the first one that I've still got. The phantom quartz.
That was the first one that you commissioned to have cut?
I believe so. Yeah, it's from Constantine World, yeah. And that's the oldest one in my collection.
Okay.
Robert, can you show us the one that has the gold inclusions?
Yeah, I've got that on the table to show you more specifically.
Nice one, nice one.
Yeah, so we're gonna look at Robert's overall collection here, and then we're gonna jump to his other camera where we'll get to focus on some individual eggs.
The lighting isn't good enough to get close.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, Robert, I don't know what you did with the lighting, but since our test run, these look a lot better than they did.
Oh, thank goodness
So,
for that.
good job.
I did put a bit of effort. There's the
And
golden.
although you don't collect specifically for locales, I believe you have that information on many of the labels there, correct?
That would be a slight misstatement on some of the labels.
On some of them, okay.
Say that, you know, I'm a little bit late.
Do you have a story behind each one of the eggs? Do you have that in your head?
Not really. Some of them, yes, but for the most part, no. As I say, I'm not a good record keeper. I don't even know where I got most of them or when I got them. Some of them I do, but not by all means, not all of them. So that's the quartzes. If I go slowly over to the other cabinet. Here we have the fluorites. Forgive the mirrors at the back.
And many of these do fluoresce. We tried doing a lighting test, but it didn't show up on the cameras. But trust me, many of these do fluoresce. I've been there personally to Robert's house, and I've seen these.
That's a
Robert, one of our guests, Robert,
sorry?
would you mind slowing down? I think we're like one of our guests, like me, we might get dizzy when you go too quickly with the camera.
Robert, I told you Raquel would say that.
You did. I did it because I wanted her to say it.
Bet has been won. Dinner is on me.
Yeah. You've got it.
Oh, those are great. I love the inclusions. Now, Robert, when you are sourcing the material, are you giving the
carver? Those ones. That's Blue John from One Hill in Derbyshire. Yeah, it only found in One Hill in Derbyshire, in the centre part of England.
So, Robert, are you giving the carvers specific instructions in terms of orientation of some of the color zones or inclusions on the eggs?
Absolutely, where relevant. But for the most part, they know more than me.
Okay.
So they know what they're looking for. So those are all sphalerites. And I have a beautiful rhodochrosite here.
Oh, look at that. I love that.
That's a Japanese rhodochrosite.
Which one? The one on the right?
The one on the right. Yeah, okay. The middle one is from one of those South African crystals, you know, the I call them pointy crystals, octagonal crystals.
One of the Hudsell.
Yeah. So ruby and zoisite. And then the sapphire at the end. And there's one more cabinet. I'll go slowly. And this is beryls, tourmalines, topazes, that sort of thing.
Love that.
I love the tourmalines.
Yeah. I mean, tourmalines have so many different colors. You could do just a whole cabinet of tourmalines and never get bored.
And that one in the center there, that's chrysoberyl. We have aquamarine. And then morganites, emerald. This one is interesting because there were two crystals like this. This is tourmaline in beryl, and the uncut crystal, the other one, the better one, went to the Natural History Museum and is still in the systematic collection.
Natural History Museum of London.
In London, yeah.
Yeah.
And then copper minerals. I've got one more to show you. Turquoise, lapis chrysocolla, topazes. This is a nice one. Spodumene.
Oh yeah, I love that spodumene. We were looking at that the other day.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. Here, well, I couldn't get a big one, so we settled for a smaller one. So cinnabar, then opal, then border opal, then black opal. That's where the material wasn't available to me.
And I wish that we could show the audience a little bit better the opals there, because I know that they have incredible color. That's the black opal, right?
Yeah, I'll take those two over and I will put them on the other thing and see if I can. So I'm going to switch back to the other camera.
Yeah, Raquel, let's go ahead and spotlight his iPhone, which is the vertical camera. And then we will be able to see some of these pieces in a little bit more glory. There we go.
So that's my favorite blue, John.
Okay, and Robert, I have to say that you are perhaps the only one who can get away with a base that's partially made of Lego just because of your business. So please continue.
That's absolutely right. But the question is, was it my business or my grandchildren that made it possible?
Doesn't matter. It was a passion.
Right. I don't know what you can see there. Probably not going to sit for me. Can you see this?
I could see kind of flashes of green and yellow and small flashes of red occasionally.
That's part there.
Well, move it to a little to the right because I'm seeing your hand pretty much there. There we go.
That's a smaller. So how do you go about when you get smaller sizes, Robert? Does it bother you that you get different sizes?
Absolutely. So if, for example, I came across a piece of like that was big enough to that would go immediately. But in all the years I've been collecting, I haven't found a better piece to cut. So this is the black oak. Can you see the blue?
Yeah. I love that indigo blue inside. It's superb.
Yeah. Okay. So that's those ones. And then I thought I'd show you some of the other ones. So we'll start off with inclusions in quartz, favorite one. This I found the rough material in Portugal.
Oh, so that's a double pyrite, it looks like.
No, it's apatite.
It's apatite inside.
Yeah. I'm hoping you can see it.
Well, I love the orientation of the included crystals.
You know, in this case, better to leave it to the cutter.
Yeah.
This is the Jerusalem egg, and he was beyond brilliant. Broke my heart when he retired. This one I found in the cupboard. This is a green tourmaline in quartz. Hope you can see it.
Super.
Then the one Raquel asked about, the golden quartz. So this came from a visit to Wayne Life in California.
Okay, yeah.
And the piece cuts a hippo and 4 eggs. I kept one.
That is superb.
Then we have pyrite quartz. Again, beautifully positioned.
Could you rotate that a little bit so that we could see the crystals there? Yeah. You know, Robert, I have to say that with all of the specimens that you have having the same shape, namely that of an egg, what it's doing is it's focusing the eye on what's different about each egg, which is the color zonations, the inclusions, everything that's inside of the confines of the egg. And it's kind of a different way of looking at mineral collecting.
Yeah, I come very much from what it looks like rather than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is dendrites and quartz, obviously. I have two like that. That's the nicer one. And then going on to some fabulous fluorites. Look at that color.
Now, is that a Spanish or French fluorite?
Spanish. My wife and I went on holiday in Asturias. And
there you go. Okay. And, Raquel wants that one.
Sorry, Raquel. Then I have a couple of yellow ones, but this one is lovely. That's quite old.
That's super. You know, there are just a few minerals that can have that bright yellow color, and there you go.
Away with it, absolutely. Then this one is chloromelanite.
Oh, I love that. Look at the texture of that. You know, Robert, you might not have thought of this. Maybe you have, but I think it would be incredibly ironic to have a sulfur egg.
The one limitation is I won't cut anything that isn't hard.
Okay.
It's got north of 6.
Because it'd be neat to have an egg that actually smells like one.
I can get plenty of those at the supermarket. There's no hunting that. So that's the chrysoberyl, which is lovely. Again, from the cabinet.
We're getting a comment online saying exceptional.
Yeah, exceptional, absolutely. Exquisite.
Exquisite.
This is quite a rare material, I'm told. Limonite and topaz.
Wonderful. Can you rotate that also so that we can see how far the inclusion?
You'll lose the inclusion.
Oh, they're like little needles. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And then we go on to another one from the cabinet, which is another tourmaline. Again, pretty fabulous color.
Look at that. I like how you have the overall pink, but then you have the much darker rubellite streaks through it.
Yeah. What's next? This is my favorite. This came from, I was with Chris and we were at a mineral show and he came over to, we were actually, had a table selling and he said, there's a crystal over there. You're going to have to buy that by the end of the show. But the guy wanted a fortune for it. And we waited. And he was in South Africa and he didn't want to take it home. And right at the end, we got it. And it's amazing. Can you see it?
Yes.
Again, there were about 9 eggs out of that crystal. But the skin of the crystal was 100% black. And I say he wanted a lot of money for it. And Chris said to me, you'll be fine, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. I said, it's black. I said, you'll be fine, you'll be fine.
Trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me.
Okay, this is another very, very early one, a bit topical. So that's Eilat stone from King Solomon's Mines, which has been closed for a long, long time. It's a mixture of azurite, malachite, and chrysocolla. Very rare to find pieces that size.
You know, Robert, to a certain degree, I would say that on public display, people would kind of easily resonate with these because they could recognize them as all being eggs. And they don't need to know much to just really kind of start focusing on what they're looking at versus when you look at a mineral display, there's possibly a lot more questions that might be a barrier for the public to try to understand what they're viewing. Right.
They can read the name, they can read the title, they don't need to know about the crystal formation or the location, what have you. They can see it's been carved into an egg and somebody had the skills take the best part of the crystal and cover it. So this is the last one I got out. Happy to show you more. This was again from the New York cupboard, and it's a bicolor beryl. Except being colorblind, I cannot see the two colors.
Are you colorblind?
I'm colorblind, yeah.
You are the second mineral collector, sort of, I guess, that I know of who is colorblind.
Yeah. I have very good friends who help me. So those are the ones I specifically pulled out. If you want to see any of the ones that you saw that we were doing in the cabinet, if you wanted to do that, I can pull another one out. Up to you.
Well, Robert, what I'd like to do, unless Raquel or Eloise has one of those ones that they'd really like to see, is I'd like to move on to the carving collection. So we're going from carvings of eggs to carvings of animals, and this is the Dreher collection that we're going to look at. And so this is in another room. So Robert is now transitioning over to the other room, and we're going to look at them in his display case. The display case opens from the back, so we're going to have to look at them through the glass, but I've got a lot of wonderful photographs here taken by, I believe they're all Jeff Scoville photographs. Yeah. Taken by Jeff Scoville of these carvings. So there we go. Those are the two cases there.
Only half the collection is here. The other half, as we said, is still in Houston.
And so, Robert, as you're kind of focused on this, I'm bringing up images on my camera of the same piece. So Raquel, feel free to cut back and forth between them. But these are the pieces that we're looking at there. And so this is in agate. And tell us a little bit about any kind of story you have behind this piece.
Well, there's nothing other than I saw this agate on the white background. I didn't have one. What I should say is that they started giving Gerd all sorts of precious materials, as a lot of collectors do now. But it quickly dawned on me that the way to spend the money was not on the material, but on wonderful agates. So gradually I got rid of most of my pieces that were transparent or of more precious materials, and I switched to agates. And this is a piece I desired for a long, long time because of the transition between the fingers and the white quartz. It is absolutely stunning.
Well, upstairs.
The whole Dreher family is so incredibly talented at taking the features of the agates and the connecting matrices and incorporating them seamlessly into a sculpture like this, where it seems incredible, meaning not believable that they are one piece, but all of these indeed are one piece.
Yeah. What I'm looking for in Dreher's work is either movement or natural stillness. So a toad will sit doing nothing for ages and ages and ages. And that's what this guy's looking, and it looks like he's looking for prey. And that's what I love about that.
Absolutely.
So the next one is also a toad, but a brushy garnet one.
All right, so let's cut back to Robert's camera here.
Remove the movie come down, okay?
What did I do?
Let's go a little bit there. Okay, and a little bit to the. There we go. Now, what is the material?
Brushy garnet.
Rossular garnet.
And as you can see, he's got a headband around the eyes. That's what it's so clever, to know that the band is going to be there in around the eyes in exactly the right place.
And that is the incredible thing, really, that they can see this as they're carving, and they know exactly where to place it in such a way that it looks like it was almost an afterthought or a feature added after the carving was finished. But that is an actual part of the material.
Correct. And then the next one is the snail, if you want to go back.
Okay, so this is the one, there we go.
Now that snail is actually lying on a piece of agate. It can be stand free, but I just kind of like it.
So those are two separate pieces. And there it is without the base. Yeah. And personally, I cannot stand snails. And yet I look at this and it draws me in and it makes me want to interact with this. And Robert, you and I talked about this at length when we were having dinner at your house, that the Dreher carvings invite you to interact, to touch them. You want to reach at and feel the glassiness of the body of the snail here. Although you'd never want to do that in real life. At least I wouldn't.
We have enough of them in the garden. But also the way he picks out the color so that the shell is the center of the agate. It's completely the right color. I mean, it's just incredible. He's done a lot of snails, to be fair, but I love that one.
Yeah.
And then we have some mice. Also with this one, with a piece of the material that was carved from, and if you're able to see, it's actually got the shape etched onto it. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah. I didn't notice that before. Now I do not have a photograph of this this mouse, but one thing that I'm always amazed at is look at the ears.
Yeah.
The perfect placement of the bands in the ears.
Yeah. He is incredible. They are incredible. Amazing. And when you're looking at that, and you've got to work out where the banding goes, so where you make your cuts.
Exactly. And to me, it's incredible. I mean, how do you know that the band moves exactly in that direction? Well, it's a mystery to me.
Sometimes it goes wrong, but for the most part, they get it right. So that was a very, very. That was our second one. It's there for nostalgia reasons more than anything. And then another mouse again, standing free of the mushroom. I don't know if you can see it. You've got a picture of that one.
Do I have a picture of this?
You've got a picture of all of them.
No.
You have a picture of all of them. Beautiful. Okay, so move to. I do have some. I started buying a few included spheres, and that's Ganesh carved from sandalwood carving that we got in India. Copied, but that's not one piece. Okay, my favorite.
Oh, the otters.
Only two of these exist. The polish on it, done by Patrick, is such that you can see they look like they're in water. They're incredible.
And look at the thinness of the feet here, the webbed feet, and the way that the light comes through and just illuminates that. Incredible. I mean,
when you consider that you do the
honestly, to be carving that part.
You do the feet last, so you've invested all that money, and then you're going to go and do the feet. I mean, it's incredible.
It is.
A couple of hippos. Yeah. One is a citrine, I think is Raquel is familiar with, and one in obsidian. And then we have the.
And this was one of the signature moves that Patrick developed, which was a all-over polish of the body. Prior to Patrick developing this technique, it was never done, and he actually had to fight against his father, who really disliked the idea. But I think Patrick eventually wore him down, and the results.
We had a lot repolished in order to achieve that. It's well worth it. And then the last one that's here is the tarsia. We should have a picture of it. Also, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. Robert, I'm going to cut to a couple that photos that I have here that you don't have.
Just the bowl.
I'm sorry, what's that?
There's one more carving and a bowl.
Oh, yeah. Let's go back to the bowl. Okay, yeah. Now that is one agate bowl. And this was done by Gerd, correct?
No, it was done by Mr. Hartman in one of the villages outside Eden.
Ah, okay.
He apparently was a very, very important bowl carver, but unfortunately he died about 4 years ago. And then you have the baby elephant, but interestingly with a template, and you can see what can happen when you're carving. So the one on the right, they got to do the front right-hand leg, and a hole opened up. And at that point, you can go no further. That's finished. But I like to show them because a lot of people don't realize the processing, getting from a lump of stone to a carving.
Well, I'm always fascinated when I see the rough and the finished piece. I'm going to pull up a photograph here that actually shows that same. It's the chimpanzee, and it's the rough and the finished piece. It's the work in progress, and it always amazes me to see the two of these side by side. And then if you want to just focus on the finished chimpanzee there, absolutely incredible work. And the translucency on the ears and the fingers, amazing.
Yeah, and there's also a template to go with that one. So
yeah,
also that one's in Houston.
And then I want to show maybe 3 other pieces. One,
yeah.
I just love this, the warthog. I mean, capturing movement. We had talked earlier about the toad and no movement needed because it's what a toad does. He sits there for hours. But here's a warthog who is actively running with that incredibly fine tail sticking right up in the air. And
silver.
All of that captured is just, amazing.
Yeah. So show the cheetah as well.
Yeah, that was going to be my next one.
My second favorite.
Superb. And then I'm going to show this one because before the show started, we were kind of joking about this being Raquel, Elise, and myself, with, of course, myself facing the wrong direction. And you said that you had a story about this.
Yeah, this one went through a number of hands before I got it. And I was always very, very jealous. But eventually, the last owner was moving on his collection. And unbelievably, he let me have it for a very, very decent price. So I went to Gerd and asked him, well, how did you do that? How does this happen? And he explained to me that the agate banding met in a corner just behind the one with its back to us. So there were bands coming off to the left and a band to the right, both the same color because they're one consistent band. Of course, he couldn't get the third one in there. There wasn't enough material to work with. But that's how that's come about. And if you see it close up, with the exception of the front of the one facing away, all the fingers, all the faces, all the feet are exactly the right color.
Superb. And to get a shot of the one looking away, this certainly reflects me saying, oh my God, what did I do?
I think it's the 2 girls saying, do we really have to talk to him?
So I'm gonna kind of show the audience. If you happen to miss the interview we did with Patrick Dreyer, that was back in July of 2020. It was episode 7. There's the URL at the bottom of the screen. One final piece of yours that I want to talk about that Patrick did was one where he recently won the Spectrum Award from AGTA, first place for a carving. Tell us about this frog made out of a heliodor.
Yeah, well, Patrick and I were in Tucson together 2 years ago, and he got a tip off that somebody, I think in Argentina, had this carving. I should point out this time, I don't carve good crystals. They have to be damaged. They have to be intended for carving. And there was this beautiful crystal, and for the duration we were there, we haggled over the price. She had to keep on going back to her dad. Anyway, we managed to acquire it. It went back, and then for the next 18 months, we haggled over what was going to be made out of it. And I think Patrick got it right. It's fabulous. There are other heliodor frogs, but this, to my mind, is the best. And the crystal and the color is fantastic. So all the crystal faces are natural.
I love it. And it's that etched exterior of the heliodor that is so typical of the Volodarsk area. And you see that and you immediately understand what it is. I'm so glad that was left as part of it because it really adds to the overall beauty of the sculpture here.
You want to keep as much of the crystal as you can, and it would have been a travesty to cut it away. Hence amount of time it took to decide what to cut it with.
And to me, that's the interesting thing, because you look at a heliodor and yeah, it can be cut up into gemstones, but if you have a wonderful crystal, then of course you want to leave it as a crystal. But if you have a broken crystal, typically in the past, the only thing you would do with a broken crystal is turn it into gemstones. Yet, what you've done with Patrick is you've found a new use for that broken crystal, whether it's a carved frog like Patrick did here, or whether you find a piece of rough that you end up turning into an egg. So you're finding different uses for mineral specimens that may not be collectible specimens, and maybe saving it from the gemstone cutting.
But also trying to keep the original crystal as big as possible. So did you want to look at the ceramics?
Sure, let's take a look at your ceramics real quick. Let's cut back to Robert's camera. And this is another area of collecting that you do. Tell us a little bit about what drives you in this area of collecting or hunting for treasures.
Well, here's another area where the number of pieces to find is absolutely finite. There's a pattern. These pieces are from 1930 to 1932. They were only produced for a very short while because there were two reasons. The very wide rim, the tea got cold quickly. And the second reason was trying to hold on to that solid handle. It would tend to slip in your hand and pour tea into your lap.
So they only were produced in the UK?
In the UK, in Staffordshire. And the factory is called Shelley. And I only collect two shapes, which is the wider one is the Vogue, and the one at the top is the Mode. But when I got into
so you say it's Shelley. How's that spelled? S-H-E-L-L-Y?
S-H-E-L-L-E-Y.
E-Y. Okay.
We found that there were quite a few that never made it to the pattern book because they were specials for retailers or specifically for customers. So, for example, the black and gold there in the pattern book is only a coffee, but I managed to find it as a tea. So that would be very, very rare.
Interesting. And how did you, Robert, maybe you could tell us how you first got tuned into this as Raquel launches the poll. I've been so focused on looking at your collection that I've totally forgot to ask Raquel to launch the poll. So if you see a window pop up, go ahead and just close the window. Don't end the interview. But tell us a little bit about how you were first turned on to this.
I've always liked China porcelain, and I was out and about in the south of England, and I stopped at an antique shop, as I was prone to do, and I saw a Shelley set. They were typically 21-piece sets, and we were sort of newlywed, and we didn't have a China set, and it was beautiful, and it was really, really cheap. So I bought that one, and then started going out looking for more and more Shelley. But this was not a Vogue and a Mode; it was another pattern. And eventually, half our dining room had cardboard boxes with collections in it, and I got the normal ultimatum: it's either the boxes or it's me.
You wisely chose Lizette.
Exactly. So I did what I often do. I got rid of everything and started again. But I'm near the end now. It's really, really difficult to find anything more now.
Now, do these have different values based on colors or what's painted on them, or how's it evaluated?
The value is more on the number of pieces that were produced. So the earlier ones, such as, for example, those blue ones, loads were produced. So they're readily found and they're not expensive. But if you go to something like that, which came at the end, those two, they're really hard to find, and therefore they're a lot more expensive.
And does this collectible market exist outside the UK? Is it a global market?
Okay. Absolutely. There's a fan club in the United States, in Australia, and in Canada, as well as in the UK.
Super.
But it is English-speaking.
English-speaking countries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Robert, maybe we can have you sit down and we can reverse your camera again so that we can see your face. And in the meantime, maybe tell us, is there any other kind of collectible market that you go hunting in?
I'm pretty much done for new markets. I'm not really looking to start any new collections.
Okay.
If anything, I'm more in a disposal mode. But no, I'm happy with what I've got. If I eventually do retire, there'll be more time to go and look, and maybe my interest will be reinvigorated. But at the moment, I've got enough.
Super.
Yep.
So,
except that, of course, is where I carry on collecting.
Yeah. So some of your Dreher pieces are still on exhibit at the Houston Museum, correct?
They're in a back room. They've taken them down.
Okay.
We're trying to work out the logistics of getting them back.
Gotcha. And then I understand that some of your eggs are going to go on exhibit relatively soon.
Yeah. Next Easter, Raquel's going to take a selection of them and do a very, very interesting interactive exhibition at Harvard, which I'm really looking forward to.
Well, I can say we're all looking forward to that. Robert, I think we are at the point in our interview, and we're going to go a little bit over the 1 hour that I want to say typically is an interview, but I'm always going over an hour. But we're going to go into the quick fire 5 questions segment of our program. Now, what I have 5 questions here. Each question has 2 answers. All of your answers are correct. The viewers have seen these 2 answers, and they've been given the chance to vote on how they predict you may answer these questions. So again, there's no thought required. It's just your gut instinct, which answer you resonate with most strongly. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Question number 1. You're in the mountains and you have to go to another spot in the mountains. What's your preferred mode of transportation? Mountain bike or cable car?
Definitely cable car, although I'm terrified.
Okay. Question number 2. If you were to collect toys based on comic books, which world would you focus on, Marvel or DC?
Definitely Marvel. I think they're much more interesting than the DC characters.
Interesting. Okay. This is question number 3. During a wonderful dinner, what's your beverage of choice, red wine or white wine?
Always red wine.
Always red. That's right. You need to buy a new car. What's your brand, Range Rover or BMW?
Well, since I've been in BMWs probably for nearly 30 years, I'd probably say BMW. I'm not looking to change at the moment.
Okay. Final question, and this might be one of the tough ones. You find the perfect mineral. Let me try that again. Let's do this in English. You find the perfect mineral crystal for your collection. What do you choose, to carve an egg or to do an animal carving?
That's tough. But the answer is actually quite simple. If the crystal is worthy, it's an animal, for sure. But the crystal has to be worthy because there's a lot of investment to get from the crystal to the carving.
Robert, I have to say, I think that last one, there was only one right answer just because Patrick is watching the show. So congratulations.
Yeah, I'm getting it wrong.
All right. Raquel, do we have the answers from the viewers?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's go through this. Question number 1, traveling in the mountains, mountain bike or cable car? Without hesitation, Robert went with cable car. What did our viewers say?
Similar. Our public, I think, agree.
Nice. Okay. 1 out of 1 so far. Question number 2, collectible toys based on comic books, Marvel or DC? Robert went with Marvel, my personal favorite. What did our viewers say?
Marvel.
Marvel.
Hooray.
Okay. During dinner, beverage of choice, red wine, white wine. I'm with Robert. Always go red. What did our viewers say?
Red wine.
Ooh, 3 out of 3. New car. Are we going with a British Range Rover or a Bavarian BMW?
Yeah, I think here the audience got it different. Range Rover.
Range Rover. You tricked them with your UK origin there.
Well,
Final answer. I'm sorry, was that Robert?
I did have a Range Rover once, but it was a bit like a desert camel. It wobbled so much going down the road. I couldn't stand it, and I've never gone back to it.
All right. Okay, final question. I hope everybody got this right. Mineral crystal, do we carve an egg or a animal carving? What did our Robert went with animal carving, which is the correct answer. What did our viewers say?
The viewers thought he would do an egg.
Woo! All right. Well, that's 3 out of 5. That's not bad. Had we gotten 5 out of 5, I think everyone would have gotten a free egg.
Would have been different.
I think I just made Robert choke. Raquel, let's go into the Q&A. Do we have any questions from the viewers that Robert can answer?
Yeah, so let me go. I'm gonna start from the beginning. So I guess we talk about it, or it was a comment also in the section, how beautiful your collection would be if you would do the UV lights. And it seems like you have done some UV. So is your collection highly fluorescent?
No, there's only there's less than 6 pieces that fluoresce.
Okay, so less than we think, less than we thought. Okay. Patrick asked, not Patrick Drea, Patrick Roycroft, are there such things as mica, like muscovite, biotite, lepidolite X? If so, given the mica sheet structure, how are they made? Like if you have a softer mineral or like a fluorite?
If it's slices in one direction, we don't even attempt it. So mica, which cleaves in one direction, you would never do anything. I stick to material that doesn't generally, I mean, I do have topaz and they're very careful with that, but generally cleavable material I don't use, and I don't use soft material.
I mean, sphalerite is on the softer side.
Yeah, that was before I knew.
You have like 5 sphalerites, so those are on the softer side, but
it was a great trip to Spain.
I know they're beautiful. Fluorite is also on that side. We're talking about a 4 on the scale. But they are beautiful if you're a good carver, I would say. So okay. Then the next question: have you ever dropped an egg?
Once.
And
it broke. And I try not to do it again.
Do you remember which one?
All I can say is that it wasn't a terribly expensive one. It was from a sort of tertiary part of the collection, but it did remind me that I had to be a little bit more careful.
I bet. Next one. Where is the collection going when the time comes? A museum? Do you have any thoughts?
I'm hoping that I'll find a museum for all my collections. Eggs are not so easy. But the carvings, I'm sure we can arrange something, but the eggs are not so easy.
Why do you think that?
I think the sort of place that would take it would need to be more decorative than systematic. And where do you find them?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to have the exhibit. I'm having fun of trying even to design what are the topics we're going to talk about. So
great, yeah.
I'm going to chime in. I think that's going to be incredibly fascinating to see what Harvard does with your eggs, Robert. I can't wait till that goes on exhibit. And who knows, we may do a little short video just of that, because that's going to be really neat to see if we can, if Harvard can put together an exhibit that has you look at these things kind of in a different way. So the challenge is on, Raquel. Get to work.
Thank you. I'm taking it. And then let me see. We have a few questions and then on the chat. Someone asked if you have a website for your toy business that people is really interested on that site too.
Yeah, it's called masterreplicas.com.
Masterreplicas.com. Okay. And then someone asked when the exhibit at Harvard is gonna open sometime end of February, beginning sometime in the spring, early spring.
Yeah.
So maybe we would send.
But Easter is early, so you've got to try and get it in for Easter.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then what else? Brian, I think that's from the Q&A sessions. I saw some questions along the chat, but I think we answered most of them. So unless you have anything pending, I think we're good.
Well, super. All right. So, Robert, with that, I want to thank you for spending your evening with us here on Mineral Talks Live. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
If anybody's in London and would like to visit, I love showing off the collection.
Super, super. All right. Well, I can see Raquel in the background going like, yeah, can't wait.
I'm going to be there in December, so.
That's right. Yeah.
You've already got
So for all you viewers out there, thank you for tuning in and listening to our talk. We'll be back on January 3rd with our next episode of Mineral Talks Live. Until then, whether you're spending the holidays with family, friends, or loved ones, we want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a very safe New Year's. We'll see you in 2024. Mahalo.